The unpromising race pupil returns. So it was. My unpromising race pupil entered the harbor and used my superior to give me orders. I salute your cunning and will remove the body from the tree with my bare hands.
You're so noble, Measurehead.
There's a but.
But while I am gone, someone must stand guard on the bridge. That someone needs to be you. Both of you.
This is the uncomfortable result of not taking it on ourselves. I can live with a compromise.
Listen to your little friend. He is wise in his childlike way. His mysterious race may yet prove fierce competition to my heroic haplogroup. Babe, see that they stay here the whole time.
The woman's gaze follows Measurehead as he leaves.
So, you guys are like cops or something? Cool, I like men with guns and power. I'm Katya, by the way.
You hear that? That sound. He's breaking something.
Yeah, Jean-Luc must be really tearing it up over there. I wish I could see it.
Look at you! RCM rent-a-cops! Guarding that bridge like Everott's lapdogs! Is this where it's at now? The RCM is for sale!
And who are you? What is your business here? Why are your clothes 4 sizes too small for you?
A shrill laughter interrupts you, echoing across Martinez. It's Kuno. Then, the man turns to look behind him at the behemoth appearing around the corner, approaching him, walking past him.
The corpse has been removed from the tree. Stand down and congratulate yourself. You have sided with Ray's victory today. Farewell, ham sandwich. You are a Union man from now on.
So, how'd you like our harbor?
You've been in there, he means. Talked to the boss man too, probably.
It's but a rest area on the path leading across open plains. Right. You talk to the boss, eye to eye, like men of the plane. If you have any more questions, I'm set to talk. A key, huh? What door is this key supposed to open? Oh, say no more. I got you. I got that key right here. And let me tell you, it's mighty good of you to help us out during the strike. Working class solidarity, as they say. Polar weasel? Oh, I know what you mean. I'm pretty sure he's actually Occidental, though. So you're gonna be committing fratricide, my racist friend. What you're looking for is a basement door behind the greenhouse. That's behind the whirling in rags. That's all I know. Our organization is what you call compartmentalized. Means we keep out of each other's business.
Okay, but where did you get the key from?
The janitor gave it to me. Nice fella. We talked about life and things that really, truly matter. None of this mess we're in. This jiving and juggling. What's it for? To feed our children, I guess. I'm more of a philosophical dock worker. I like to talk about the big picture stuff. Who I am, who you are, what we are fighting for.
He means he's not going to tell you, cause he doesn't know. But he will shoot his mouth off with you now that you're working for Everard.
Los Ardis? They're an independent militant group. A bit too high-strung, but it comes with the responsibility. They're sort of like you. Preserve the rule of law and all that. Except it's Everard's law. But really, they're just like you. We're negotiating our share. Aye. All of it. However, right now we want all the harbor workers to be on the company's board, so they could take part in the decision-making process.
This seditious talk sounds like communism. Just so we're on the same page, communism is basically wanting to kill the rich people or deporting them to a labor camp in southeast Grad. But don't say that out loud if you're a communist.
I think it's best you make up your own mind now that you've met him. In my eyes, he is a capable organizer and a decent businessman. I guess you kind of get to be the village chief. He oversees the harbor, makes deals with the owners or other relevant parties, watches out for his own.
By that, you mean corruption?
By heavens, why would he not be corrupt? We live in a harsh and disordered world, see? And in this world, the old man is corrupt for our benefit, and we know it. Appreciate it even. He is, personally, not too lavish. He is reasonably lavish, sure. That's his prerogative. It's not like you want a saintly demeanor on a corrupt motherfucker. That would be a manipulative illusion. Besides, there are no non-corrupt systems in the world anyway. And moralism is the most corrupt of them all.
This man has political theory, and it has not failed him today.
No. I don't think I'm a communist. Seeing something of value and saying I want it all to myself is a much older and simpler notion. No science to it at all. Even a weak child can think it. The only things holding someone back are I can't and I shouldn't. Just the way the world works, boyadero. Sure, I've had the necessary free time. Fortunately, there's always time.
The look in his brown eyes conjures up an understanding. For him, having command of his time is the most important thing. It all comes together now. The way he speaks about scabs, his general attitude. He's a follower of a 500-year-old Franco-Nigerian boyadero code, itself an appropriation of Vespertine cool. That of a noble peasant or a traveling herdsman. True to yourself, independent in your actions, loyal to your friends. No. No. The man sits on the railing, his hands reaching far and wide, yet it feels as if he could, effortlessly, go even wider, if need be, an endless torrent of time.
The mercenary, eh? Who could have killed him? That's indeed the question. Why even do such a thing? What a thought! Why would noble workers resort to such a thing? Unless they were pushed, of course. Your dead guy was an enemy combatant. He was an agent of the opposition, attempting to undermine our honorable efforts. I ain't the murdering type, but that's just me. Large organizations like our union have all sorts of men, with all sorts of skills.
He's not lying about not doing it himself.
Understood. This has been of limited use. Still, thank you.
No problem. I wish the best to you in your search. Sure, I'm glad it's not my search.
The corpse lies on the ground among the remains of an absolutely demolished pinewood branch. It's gently laid on one side.
Mr. Measurehead has done a good job. Nothing is too broken or compromised. The victim is ready for a field autopsy. Yes. 1. Investigation of the scene. 2. Initial examination of the victim. 3. Field autopsy. 4. Transportation of the body to the morgue. We are on number 3.
The RCM's 4-phase murder scene processing manual.
The fuck are they on about?
Cop's gonna cut his shit up!
It's not about cutting. And no, you and I are detectives. The honorary rank of detective signifies our ability to handle the entire incident chain, from autopsy to cleanup to social work. An honor and a burden attached to your rank once you've proven yourself able, usually after 5 to 8 years of field work. Mine is Lieutenant Detective. You are. Your station would not have assigned you on this case if you weren't. Now,
The lieutenant adjusts his glasses and takes a deep breath.
come on, officer. You know what a field autopsy is. You've done 100 of them.
What you do know is, at 18.9 kilometers, the dormant shield volcano, Corpus Mundi, is the world's highest summit, and the failure of the 38 single, Et puis descend, to crack the top 20 was the death knell of disco. But what a field autopsy is, you have no idea. You must have me confused with the Copperpedia. You, sir, you are the Copperpedia.
Unfortunately, no. And hygienically? I suggest I handle the physical part of the autopsy and you take notes. That's right.
Shoot, Looney Rooney. Come back later, Corpo. Amuse yourself with my frank manners and my memento mori features. If possible, also, see me in your dreams.
I thought we decided to leave it to processing. Let's not turn this into some kind of circus.
Okay, so you can sneak out of your room maybe, after he's gone to sleep. The dead man stares in silence as you crack open the ledger. The bright red paper is covered in boxes and lists, describing the condition of his skin and organs in 3 parts. Above those, an 11-field info form needs filling out first. It begins with,
No, let's fill out the info form first. That's you.
The corpse is indifferent to your scribblings, just lies there. The next box says
KK57-0803.0815.
KK equals Kim Kitsuragi. 57 equals Precinct 57, followed by his date 0803 and time of arrival 0815 on the scene. He's indexed the case after himself, not you. That's because he doesn't want to bring up the messy question of your initials.
And what would that make the alphanumeric?
HDB 41 0803. Help me out with the time of day, anyone? Let's say 1300. A good time to start drinking. 10:15. It's understated.
Good. Let's go with that. NA. Next. NA. Roughly 50.
Try 40. The damage is so extensive, it's better to err on the young side. He nods.
Mondial.
Fair to olive-skinned, from the Isola of Mwindi. This is as vague as it gets. You might as well say whitish. The pudgy mess of curdled meat looks neither mondial nor anything other.
Fucky!
Male.
Pigs can have sex!
Naively, the lieutenant does not double-check your notes.
We're still going with March 4th, 51. What else? 9. Body identified by is non-applicable. 10. Case number is the same as the coroner's case.
HDB 41 0803.1015 listens, motionless, with the cargo belt still around his neck. Only one box remains.
None, at least not after the initial examination. Interfering with the body's position or wounds post-mortem. They'd have to have incapacitated and carried him over. This man was more than a match for untrained dogwalkers.
Your central nervous system recognizes this gesture. It's the stations of the breath. Ecclesiastic, religious in nature, a holdout from pre-DeLorean burial rites. It takes him 2 seconds to perform. Then, somewhere in Jamrock North, a small wood shed behind Rosencrantz Row, Lieutenant Nick Feuerbach puts his hand to the chest of a small corpse, no larger than a monkey. It's raining outside, light drizzle. There is darkness in the shed. Elsewhere yet, an obese female sits in a wicker chair, her silhouette bull-like against the window. Outside, Grand Coudon, The day is turning dim for Sergeant Mac Dawson. Hand extended, he approaches to make sure she is dead more than anything else. The building is tall, 7 stories, wind-wrapped in solitude. Most of the apartments are unoccupied. This was a suicide. The other, an accident. The small one. And so, all across Jamrock, Coal City, GRIH, 42 deceased persons found today. 42 stations of breath.
We should start the post-mortem.
The corpse cannot feel Kim's hand on his chest. It no longer meaningfully interacts with its surroundings. A thicket of boxes and lists on red copier paper tries to answer why.
Clothes. The deceased wears armored boots and white briefs. The make of the briefs is Babrodine, I think. Let's see.
See, it's happening.
Babrodine, yes. Inexpensive. Size M. Color white.
The disappointment is palpable. The red-haired thing was expecting something more lurid.
The rest of the clothes have been removed post-mortem by scavengers in order to get to the victim's ceramic armor. Officers are in search of the missing pieces. Removal of the boots is left for processing.
It would be clever of you to omit the boots altogether, sire. If you are to keep them for yourself, as you ought to, you have deserved them more than anyone else. Patience. After the autopsy, before the body is taken away, there will be a window of opportunity. After the lieutenant has gone to sleep, I hope this has helped you, my liege.
The boot has a serial number. It's E50.100.100. The lines between the plates are in the shape of the alphanumerical. The number is purposefully concealed by the design. Tattoos. The upper torso is covered in a single continuous tattoo, resembling a national pattern. It reaches from the right shoulder to the heart. The ink is blue and white. The assistant has a color photograph of the markings, to be added to the case files as document A1. The photo is taken on the scene, using a Trigat Mini. The deceased has a belt for airlifting cargo around his neck, tied with a hangman's knot. Color yellow. Length 3 meters. There is a buckle on the other end. Well-nourished, athletically built, measuring 1.8 meters. Generally consistent with age 42. Preservation is good. Ambient temperature below freezing. Body hair is light brown. Distribution is consistent with the age. The deceased had male pattern baldness. Hair is combed back, short.
His hair feels wet, soaked with rain, cold to touch, not that different from a living person after a swim. The stench is suffocating. Strands of dark brown hair start sticking to your hand, like thread off a rag doll's head. More hair sticks to your hand. Hair off the rain-soaked head of a dead man. There are bumps and dips on the skull below. An alien landscape.
Lividity is consistent with hanging. The head is congested. Contusions are present on the head, chest, and thighs. Consistent with stones thrown post-mortem. Low velocity.
Fucking low velocity? You think Kuno doesn't know what you're talking about? Velocity was fucking max. talking shit about Kuno's velocity.
In addition, there are bite marks on the face, scalp, and chest, consistent with predation. Ligature mark. The steel wiring. There's too much of it. We need to remove the belt so we can get to the ligature mark.
You got just the right tool for that. The chain cutters. The hanged man lets out a joyous little bubble of rot from his nose.
Always good to think ahead. Now, we need to cut the belt to see the ligature mark below. Carefully, with as much precision as you can.
See? My pig is gonna fuck his head off.
No, he ain't. Your pig's a boring fuck.
You are? This pig is Kuno's.
The belt is equally tight around the whole circumference of his neck, swelling over the edges like white bread rising from the east. You jam the cutters right under the knot. That seems like a smart idea. Yeah, somewhere there. Already they're buried deep in the man's flesh. Then you rotate them to get a better hold. Then... The lieutenant looks by, somewhat worried as you summon power words to your aid. A really, really bad smell is coming from there now, and some kind of cracking sound.
Yeah, fuck him! Fuck that faggoty! Corpse fucking time!
Told you my pig was hardcore.
I should have a go first. I think I have a strategy. His head, yes. You were about to cut off his head.
Snap! The knot is slashed. Another cut and the belt falls apart like a flower bouquet, revealing the dead man's neck and the dark red ligature mark around it.
Here. The rope rises to a point, leaving a gap in the ligature mark. The suspension point is in the back of the neck, on the nape. Hemorrhaging is observed on the skin, above and below the ligature mark. The mark is well pronounced, consistent with a drop from 1 or 1.5 meters. Chest is intact, normal contour, abdomen is protuberant, pelvis intact, genitalia...
No! It's gonna happen, see?
I fucking knew it!
Genitalia is male and unremarkable. No evidence of injury.
The dead man's penis is average-sized, congested from the downward collection of blood. The testicles are uneven in length, hanging underneath. The genitalia is greenish. Marbling is present around the crotch. You should touch it. Doesn't feel like anything. Just cold flesh under your finger. Unremarkable and unalive.
My pig's so fucking ill right now.
Oh, your pig's pretty sick, I gotta say.
Back is symmetrical and intact. Upper and lower extremities are intact, but asymmetrical. There are all combat injuries on the right hand, thigh, and hip.
Bullets have bitten little pieces out of him. It must have been excruciating, especially the hip. Before you is a temple of pain that knew little tenderness in life.
In addition, I see smaller, residual scars, too numerous to count, covering about 30% of his skin.
From wounds sustained over 2, maybe more decades, dispersal and accumulation indicates long and active combat duty.
Last item, hands.
The hand is surprisingly heavy to lift, filled with decay liquids. Feels as though it could explode if squeezed harder. You're suddenly repulsed, so much so you feel compelled to drop it.
Hands are clean. No sign of injury from struggling. I was. Maybe I'm just not seeing them. Honestly, this stench is making it hard for me to think at the moment. Ooh. That's all for the external. Well done. What next? Central nervous system. I have nothing. Do you have anything on this man's central nervous system?
Of course, there is a moral to be drawn from it. A moral to this story.
What would that be?
The dead man looks, too, with barely contained excitement to hear the moral of his story.
I think that may well be the moral of every story, officer. Good. Musculoskeletal. Purge fluid is coming from the mouth. Not injury-related. Eyes and tongue protuberant. Hyoid bone. Let's see.
With his eyes almost closed, the lieutenant puts his hand on the dead man's throat and begins to massage it, gently. A rotting smell erupts from the mouth. Purge fluid runs down his lips, black and viscous.
Yeah, jack that fucker off!
The hyoid bone is fractured. The rest of the musculoskeletal system is intact. Unremarkable. Respiratory system. Oral cavity shows no lesions. The victim has received dental implants, possibly after a combat wound. Mouth swollen, hemorrhaging present in mucosa of the lips and mouth.
No scream, no sigh of relief rises from the darkness inside. It's humid there. Sickly sweet air, unlike anything living. You feel like you're about to throw up again, straight in that mouth of his. No, you don't. You can keep it in. You can keep anything in. You manage to suppress the contractions trying to enter your stomach. All it takes is concentration. Through it, you see nothing but darkness. More meat and darkness.
Hemorrhaging present in mucus. Hepatobiliary, Na. Are you a hepatobiliary expert? Neither am I. That's it. Same for toxicology and serology, NA. Unless you have untapped reservoirs of knowledge there?
Reservoirs? No, but do they take obscure trivia and odd tidbits?
No. Like a toxicology screening? At this stage, I doubt processing will find anything, even if it was brimming with cocaine. But still, you should add a request.
Brimming with cocaine.
Cardiovascular. The body exhibits heavy lividity. Blood has gathered in the hands, feet, and neck. Hypostasis is visually consistent with the hanging. Gastrointestinal.
This will do.
Digested semi-solid food in stomach. Voila. What's next on the list? Let's see. We have bite marks, contusions on the head and chest, and a ligature mark encircling the neck. You'll need 3 fields. Leave a 4th one too. Oh, so we inflicted them? You mean the spin-stabilized munition from a Kill A990 muzzleloader lodged in his lung? Or the incision on the thorax from a chin cutter? Neither was a team effort, and I wouldn't mention them. Muddies the water. Be pedantic if you like, it doesn't matter. No one else is going to investigate this man's murder. And if they do, such details would only confuse them.
See? These pigs are fucking corrupt.
Why don't you fuck him if you love him so much?
Now, injuries. Head, chest and scalp bite mark injuries. Predation by birds has caused damage to the body. Odontologist does not need to be consulted. And your opinion, officer? Agreed. Next injury? So, the scalp bleeds from a post-mortem head injury, a stone. The injury does not have the rim of an early inflammatory response. The perpetrator on the scene has confessed to causing it post-mortem.
At maximum velocity, fucko!
Has confessed to causing it at maximum velocity.
Coagulated blood sticks to his scalp and chest, where the countless stones have hit the dead man. Beneath, the description of injury. 2 boxes.
Right. Next. A dark red abraded ligature mark encircling the neck, with a gap on the nape measuring, let's say, 7 centimeters. The hyoid bone is fractured, the cervical column intact. I see hemorrhaging on the skin, above and below the ligature mark. Depth of the mark, 1 centimeter. No signs of clawing on the neck.
Below the note, 2 customary boxes wait to be ticked. The man's head jerks to the side. The ring around his neck is visible.
Why do you say that? Okay. Why don't you think it was fatal? Honestly, I'm not sure there weren't marks on his wrist. That part got blurry for me. The stench. But you are right, I was ready to call this. Now I think we should leave it empty, at least for the time being. Let's wrap this up. I pronounce this field autopsy over. It was an irregular field autopsy. We did not establish cause of death, which is supposed to be the goal of an autopsy. But, personally, I do not see this as a parameter for success. We also requested a toxicological screening. That was thorough. The results should arrive in a couple of weeks, if we are lucky. I will not hold my breath. We were thorough with the list of injuries too. We described them all in detail. What is there to say? Given the circumstances, it was a professional field autopsy.
Oh yeah, well done, Master Detective. Maybe a drink is in order?
Now, you see, that worries me. You will die if you drink. You know that, don't you? You are proving a useful detective. The organization would miss you. I need a copy of that autopsy form. Then I will drive him to Faubourg. For processing.
You tilt your head, also looking at the corpse. I'm sure we didn't get everything. There's always something. You run your hands over the victim's cold body, his limbs, his torso with its swollen organs. Maybe you should be more thorough. The genitals in his breeches continue to be unnoteworthy. You see the penis of a dead man. If you've seen it once, you've already got the picture.
There is no need. We have been thorough with the genitals. Do you think we missed something? Okay, well, we are in livor mortis here. He is disintegrating. We need to refrigerate the body if we want to conduct another examination, and we need to do it fast. If you want for this task to slowly become impossible, then yes. Otherwise, no. He's been hanging out far too long already. We need to ice him. Hey, wasn't there a giant ice bear sarcophagus below that building? Now, that's an overstatement. It's not actually for storing cadavers, or at least I hope so. I think we should take a look at it first. Make sure it's big enough before we carry him over. Let's move. With every hour, whatever we are looking for in the deceased will become harder to find.
Both cables are unplugged from the breaker box. Somewhere in the dark, a giant electrical mammal stirs to life. The note is written with a blue pencil on a piece of lined office paper. The kitchen magnets have left spots on its surface.
Does it say anything interesting?
This is tangential at best, but the lieutenant's detective instinct is still active. Someone has scribbled, S. I can't believe the off-site copy is still here. The illiterate ginger kid keeps stealing stuff from the studio, so I had to hide it somewhere safe. You'll find the filament memory with the off-site copy in the frozen ice cream maker. Please take it home, ASAP. It's important. I'd do it myself if I lived in a civilized place with a freezer. Take care, Sully Soif.
Looks like someone from that radio game company upstairs. I'm a little surprised they just left their property lying here.
The lieutenant nods.
It belongs inside a radio computer, storing its memory. It's like a tape. You listen to disco tapes, right? It's like one of your disco tapes, only for a computer.
It's like the production schedule you found, only this one's an off-site copy.
Really? You don't have a single guess? I'm placing my bets on a certain red-hat miscreant we met before. He'd probably try to pawn it for speed, based on our encounter. I don't know. I assume it's somewhere close to the ice bear fridge.
Didn't you see one right next to the breaker box? This orange machine is dead still. It has a hand-cranked ice cream churner and an electric freezer. The ice around it slowly melting. Turning the crank feels oddly satisfying, like stirring your childhood dreams. In the distance, you hear water dripping. You slip your fingers under the frozen lid, but the ice is too cold for you to get a good grip. A pry bar would come in handy here. If you want to try again, then you need to have the pry bar in your hand, detective.
Equip the pry bar by going to the Tools tab in your inventory. From there, you can equip it to a held slot.
The bear's eyes are still glowing red, watching over all the ice cream wrappers hidden inside its belly.
It's certainly an eccentric choice, but it is capacious and cold enough, too.
Your visual confirms you could fit 2 more bodies in the ice bear fridge.
Shall we go and get the body, then? I'll take the head, you take the feet. The stairs won't be easy, but we'll manage.
The body is heavier than you expected and stinkier. It takes half an hour to get it down to the basement, then 10 more days to stuff it into the fridge. The lieutenant takes a step back to admire your handiwork.
Beautiful. A dead body in a nice bare fridge. This is some of the best police work I've ever done. No, not really. Look at that. What have we done? We stuffed a dead body in a nice bare fridge. This story does not leave this room. If I were an artist, this would certainly not be my vision. I would be much, much more conservative in my work.
He's right. His work would be much more formal.
At least we've stopped the body from decomposing further. Now you can conduct another inspection, under controlled circumstances.
Inside the icy realm of the ice bear fridge, the corpse stands slumped, waiting. Why does art inspire you so much? Excellent question. Art is a diverse range of visual, literary, auditory, and performative creativity. It's an expression of imagination and technical skill. Additionally, it's history, criticism, and pure enjoyment. In short, art is the highest form of human communication, representation, narrative, emotion, and agency intertwined. Have you looked in the mirror lately? You have the exact features of a savage art critic, with that beard and those clothes, disheveled and prophetic. Perhaps you should try to critique architecture too. Yes, you seek substance. No vapid representations and reproductions of social mores as made manifest in stuffy biennials. We're talking real living art here. Become the art cop. Half art critic, half cop. Quit being so indecisive. What are you going for here? Some kind of indecisive and camp aesthetic now? Strike a bold shape here. Go art or go home. Exactly. It's not only your duty to only catch the criminals off the street, you must also apprehend criminals of the printing press and the gallery, the trite and derivative artists and writers of the world. Go ahead and provide savage criticisms, art cop. The world is yours to rip to pieces and reassemble. The bear's eyes are still glowing red. It's guarding over the freezing corpse hidden inside its belly. You touch the dead man's body. His skin is cold, light blue and silvery in the light of the fridge. You still have no idea where to begin, or what to even do with him.
It'll come to you sooner or later. At least he's safe here until then.
Hello, I'm Nia. Did you try knocking on my window? I must have missed you. I've been listening to my Milius. So what kind of die are you looking for?
She's got a direct view to the backyard. You should interrogate her about the lynching.
Yes, Amelia is like a call-in station. You need a two-way radio to access one. That's why I have these. Mostly, they just teach you to swear in different languages. But some of the stations can be quite interesting. I was so absorbed, I must have missed you knocking. Then how did you get inside? By the south entrance? You know what? It doesn't even matter. What matters is that you're finally here. Let's talk dice. Did you have something specific in mind? I'm a novelty dice maker. Tell me the name of your role-playing system and I'll make the die you need. That's why you're here, yes?
Role-playing games? You know the one made by Fortress Accident. Does that count?
Of course, I can see that. I just thought you were a police officer looking for dice. How else can I help you then?
No falsehoods are present. She's a novelty dice maker and doesn't have anything to hide. Ask what you need.
How did I become one? It was a business decision. I was a regular jeweler at first, but that's an unfocused field with too much competition. Some of my friends were role players. They asked me to make some polyhedral dice out of cobalt. That was my first order. I grew it from there. Not especially. I like working with rare materials and a steady pay. And role players as customers? They're nice people. Nothing really. I didn't know him.
The lieutenant looks at his notebook, then the woman under the large window.
Your window looks directly onto the courtyard. You're saying you didn't see or hear anything unusual last Sunday evening?
I'm sorry, detective, but as you know, I usually have my headphones on when I'm working. It shuts out most of the daily ruckus behind my window. It's an odd profession, making dice for people, but I like it, and I prefer doing this to sitting at home. Well, there's always something going on in the Whirling's backyard. During daytime, there are usually those kids, and lately I've been seeing a lot of drunk workers hanging about. Must be because of the strike.
She's heard of the murder, but did not see it, sire.
But I never saw anyone during that fateful Sunday night, I'm afraid. I might have, but in this case, all I would have seen is my own reflection staring back from the darkness. It's really hard to make anything out in the yard when it's dark outside. Besides, I rarely get up to look out the window when I'm in the zone.
She nods.
Anything else, officer? We're inside the chimney of an old central furnace. It's strange, I know. But when I arrived here, all the other rooms were taken, so I had to build myself a makeshift home. Besides, I don't really have to pay any rent here, so that's a plus.
Creative.
I've heard the stories, but I don't think those stories are true. It's just capitalism. We only hear about tales of success, so it's often surprising to realize how many ventures actually fail. Plaisance, the bookshop lady? I've heard that her business is doing rather well. Have the energies spared her somehow? Oh, right. But it's not just the bookstore that's still up and running. What about the whirling in racks? Some people say it's part of the building complex. You could say so. Both houses were built at the same time and under the east of the Commerce Central project. And then there is me. I've been here for 14 years, selling novelty dice to role-playing enthusiasts. Not exactly a million-real business idea, yet somehow I've survived despite the talk of malicious energies. Strange, isn't it?
Maybe it's just because she's so talented that she's been able to woo the curse.
Malignant entity? What does that even mean? Some kind of sorceress? What about you, officer? Do you think I'm the malignant entity? So I'm the Grand Dragon in the cave. Might I ask what supports this claim? Oh my, I've revealed myself. You better call the exorcists. Of course, how convenient. Well, Well, if you ever find a way to explain all those inconsistencies in the curse, then let me know.
That's all she has to say on the subject. She has been thorough and truthful, as far as we can see. Plaisance needs to hear about this. Perhaps if you combine your psychic energies, you will make sense of the situation.
More or less. Are you interested in anyone specific?
Oh, quite a lot of them spring to mind.
Yes, I think it was called Androgynous Orlando or something similar. They weren't a big hit around here. Turns out that working class men don't like genderless haircuts. They're scared of that word.
A bit of experimenting every now and then isn't bad. It's not about the haircut, it's about the confidence.
You're right. It looks like you haven't let anyone near your hair in a long time. It wasn't merely a gym, it was Artemitep's boxing club, a community project created to steer at-risk youth away from drugs and crime. A kind man from Zemsk. I heard he had some trouble with the law when he was younger, and that's why he wanted to start the gym, as his way of giving back. Kuno. Who's Kuno? Oh yes, you mean the kid with the sailor's mouth. Yes, I've heard him yelling profanities in the backyard. I think it would take more than a gym to help that kid. It didn't. If anything, it made the youth situation in Martinez even worse. At some point, someone started a rumor that the punching bag downstairs was full of amphetamines.
You should have known it. It's not really full of that. No one would store their drugs like that.
Eventually, the coalition took away the funding and the club went bankrupt. This was a few years ago. It's gotten much more peaceful around the plaza ever since. Oh, this one's a mess. There used to be a company that promised to repair windows 24 hours a day. What could go wrong with this one, right? Turns out, the business was actually set up as a front for an illicit group that was producing snuff milieu. Who would have guessed?
What's the snuff milieu?
And they never cleaned up the debris either. Now it's just littering the hallway and I have no idea how to get rid of it on my own. It's a Sub Rosa radio station that broadcasts real murders with real victims. Some people pay good money to get off on it.
Nothing changes in her tone as she says that, as if it's just another piece of information to lay out for the world. What does she mean to get off on it?
Don't worry, the ICP has a separate division that deals exclusively with unlicensed sub-roses. This isn't our problem.
Good luck with that. It's not easy catching those perpetrators. You mean Mr. Fabron, the taxidermist? No, he mostly just did drugs.
But what drugs exactly?
He got high on some weird taxidermy chemicals. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Eventually, they caused him to lose control of his bladder. The smell was awful.
Even you can probably do better than that.
There used to be a fashion atelier here, but I have forgotten the head designer's name. They were doing well for a couple of years, until the insect rights activists came. The atelier produced a certain collection that used chitin among the materials. Apparently chitin is made in the Occident, where it's extracted from beetle wings. And you know how all kinds of political movements are big in the Occident. The activists shut down the biggest chitin supplier, which of course caused the price to skyrocket. And, naturally, all the most fashionable tastemakers refused to be seen in chitin from then on. The atelier went bankrupt before they could finish the collection. At least it had some spark to it. Most young designers just combine lace with leather and call it original.
As she shifts around, you notice several dead flies on the windowsill in front of her. Legs up. They're not moving.
Anything else? They were made by a company called Slipstream. After they pivoted from making rotor blades to skis, their chief executive took off on a vacation with all their money. Honestly, I think it's quite funny. I think he's still sending out holiday transmissions from Tulula or Tiumotiri or Hashtkor or wherever he is. The usual, I imagine. That he's been thinking up all kinds of new business plans and can't wait to get started on them just as soon as he returns.
Men like that are a curse.
Sure, but Slipstream is history now. All their remaining assets got seized by the bailiffs in 47. I have no idea why those skis and blades are still lying around in the house. Not much use now, I guess.
They were just props. Why return them?
Fortress Accident, the radio game studio. They were an interesting bunch. We talked about role-playing systems every now and then. Once, I even saw two of them get into fisticuffs over Wirral. They certainly took their work very seriously, even if they seemed to be chronically liberal with their schedules. The usual, they ran out of money and couldn't get the project done on time. Well, I did hear them talking at times. They seemed to believe they were historical individuals on some grand quest.
She sounds almost mocking when she says that.
Yes, but when the money started to run out, they just began to complain a lot about capitalism. You know, how the markets are rigged to keep out new businesses and so on. In the end, they just didn't get it done. They didn't have enough willpower to produce something truly historic, and to show up to work on time.
Showing up to work on time is hard. No, scratch that. Showing up to work at all is difficult, especially if you've been drinking.
And so is producing something extraordinary. Anything else? Oh boy, the fabled Revachol ICT. You're in for a treat here. The place was owned by two guys who had some rather innovative ideas about marketing. The bear was one of them. Now ask me about their other ideas.
Indeed. What were the other ideas?
There was really just one, and it involved picking out the prettiest girls in the neighborhood and paying them 20 cents per hour to man the booth. And by man the booth, I mean slump behind the counter with a face that could maim you if you ever dared to disturb their bored magazine browsing.
Fritte does the same thing.
Employing silky teenage girls is a widespread practice, yes. Unfortunately, they always come in packs. I'm talking about acne-ridden girlfriends and gorilla-like boyfriends loitering near the shop. At least that's what happened with Revachol ICT. And they already had the bear. The bear. Of course not. The bear was terrifying. No one wants ice cream guarded by a hostile apex predator. To make matters worse, the fridge didn't work too well either, and half the ice cream came out malformed and partially melted. Eventually, Revachol ICT lost the price war to its rival, Glace 5000. Glace 5000 sold caramel sundaes for only 5 cents a piece, out of regular fridges. The taxidermist who made it said it was his vision beast. He said he met his vision beast while high on desiccants. He called it Megatherion.
Sounds cool.
Megatherion, a mega wild beast. It's an imaginary beast that guides you through life by telling you to do more drugs, mostly.
Maybe this wise and noble beast can guide you toward those amphetamines you've been craving.
I don't, officer. You should stay away from drugs and vision beasts. Anyway, now you know the story of the fallen ice cream empire.
Outside it's light. Light scatters from the low-hanging cloud cover. There's always the threat of snow.
Anything else? Another failed business, perhaps? I've been here for a long time. Oh, right. I hope you didn't try to ring me. I think none of those doorbells work, including mine. I'm still in the middle of connecting the wires. Sorry about the confusion.
The doorbell with the empty name card must belong to her then.
Right, it used to be a gaming arcade. This is an ancient failure, before my time. I'm not surprised, however. My advice? Don't base your business on a fad. Hypnotism, floriography, trick-track, especially pinball.
Agreed. Pinball is the worst.
That's right. I haven't even written my name there. As I said, it's quite useless right now. It doesn't work yet. You could say so. Both houses were built at the same time and under the East Delta Commerce Center project. That explains why you can call the whirling from the intercom, albeit I doubt that anyone responds.
If the whirling is part of the same building, then it's part of the Dune commercial area. The darkness of this place is there, too.
Sure, I'm listening. Good. I hope it clarified things a bit. What else? Oh, it's you again. Are you looking for a die?
A gust of cold air sweeps through the chimney. The stones and minerals on the shelves rattle as though agitated. For a moment, it almost feels as though you're outside the building, exposed to the atmosphere.
Didn't we already talk about this? What are you talking about? My address is exactly the same. Rue de Saint-Guilain 10.
No, the old coal plant that used to be here was subsumed into the new venture. Its ruins swallowed up, yet it has a different address in the heart of the city.
This doesn't make any sense. Are you saying my business was spared because of a technicality? Where is this coming from? You're right. I should take a trip to the roof once the snow is gone. Does it mean that I'm safe from failure?
She starts laughing, her fingers trying to rub away the exhaustion from her face.
Do you know what this is? It's a mourning ring. I made this when my first company failed. It was a small jewelry shop right here in the East Delta Commerce Center, built with the little I inherited from my parents. I drove it into the ground within a year. I didn't have what you would call a viable business plan. It wasn't just a jewelry shop either. I always thought that it was just the world that you were supposed to try again and again until you finally succeed. And now you're telling me what? That it was all because I didn't run my little shops and ventures from a dump inside an abandoned chimney? Yeah. Or maybe it's the entire world that's cursed. It's such a precarious place. Nothing ever works out the way you want it. That's why people like role-playing games. You can be whoever you want to be, you can try again. Still, there is something inherently violent even about dice rolls. It's like every time you cast a die, something disappears. Some alternative ending or an entirely different world. But anyway, thanks for sharing your theories, officer.
You're alive and well. Don't keep me waiting now. What's in there? In that dark sarcophagus? Yes, yes. How was it?
Tell her how ghastly it was. You know it's what she wants to hear.
I knew it. Oh, such horrors that have been thrust upon us. But what else did you find? Did anything survive? No, of course not. Have you located the entity? A novelty dice maker? Well, spit it out. Why does she need the dice? For some kind of sorcery? Sometimes they use the ankle bones of sheep. I don't understand. If it's not her, then where is the source of the doom? How did she explain the curse?
The narrative she's built herself, it does need tearing down. She's squeezing on the pendant too tight. A drop of blood in her palm. Just don't say you don't have any answer yet. The uncertainty is killing her. To hell with it. Perchance you ought to just lie, sire.
Oh, how horrid! I knew something wasn't right about that place. Tell me, did you find a way to break the curse? Guillaume le Million? The singer who made that awful face? Well, I do see the resemblance. All that matters is that the energies are retreating. I can already feel the curse lifting. It will be a long time until we're fully free of it, of course, but still. Thank you, officer. Truly, you've brought a better psycho-emanation to this humble bookstore, and that's no small achievement.
She so badly wants this to be over. She would have believed anything.
All right then. All's well that ends well. Should we return to our ordinary lives?
crinkled chewing gum wrapper. The worn label reads, Tutti Frutti. It smells faintly of apricots, with a barely noticeable twinge of cinnamon. You feel compelled to point out that there's nothing fruity about cinnamon. It's a spice derived from tree bark. Can a used wrapper shrug? Seems like that's what the wrapper is doing somehow. This is not about flowers or bark. What is this about? Why are you looking at this wrapper? Good question. There is no answer or secret phrase written on the inside of the wrapper, yet you're drawn to it. Drawn by regret. Stop before you hurt yourself with a Tutti Frutti wrapper. Throw it away, please. You carefully fold the wrapper into a square before putting it back into your pocket, lovingly even, despite the strange feeling of regret. It's the ledger you found in the trash, a cabbage of papers hanging from the board, with the permeables drawer inside. It's barely held together by a clip, then made complete by the faint smell of urinal cleaner. Oh, and an incredibly cool piece of kitchen tissue is stuck to the back. It takes about half an hour to piece one together, using the system you've devised. Which one do you want? This one is relatively easy to reconstruct. Overnight on 1202, a graffito, nay, a mural, appears on an 8-story tenement overlooking central Jamrock. The building is a sparsely inhabited ghost tower, part of a failed real estate development called Grand Couronne. The mural is enormous. 2 silhouettes, a man and a woman, are kissing. The text cut into their form reads, True love is possible only in the next world. For new people, it is too late for us. Wreak havoc on the middle class. People call it that thing and that fucking thing. It's visible for miles. In 2 days, the station's complaints desk gets clogged with requests to remove the bummer. You and your partner are assigned to the case. The graffito crew is easy to track down. Only the bell lectures have the literage of industrial paint to cover the surface. One of the graffito artists is rumored to be rich. They take responsibility for the execution, but not the design. The ideologue of the next world mural, as the crew calls it, remains an unknown. The case files do not show you finding the author of the design. The crew agrees to clean up after themselves. However, your partner, JV, is against the removal, citing public support for conservation. This leads to a debate in Precinct 41, which then spreads to the streets of Jamrock, ending in a rare plebiscite organized by you and the rest of Row 3. The 9,000 people subjected to the mural's message, all of Lakeside, Central Jamrock, and Villalobos, plus half of the eminent domain, participate in the vote. Although the case begins with what appears to be a lot of rambling on the streets as to how juvenile and stupid the mural is, given a choice between 2 options. A staggering 78% of voters choose to keep it. Turns out the opposition were a loud minority, and that love truly is possible in the next world for new people. and it is too late for us. Did someone ask what you believe in, man with the smelly toilet ledger? What do you want to tackle next? Or are we done? AKA Leslie and Burke, AKA the public indecency drunk and the property damage drunk, is a cursed case. It has been passed from unsuspecting officer to unsuspecting officer for 10 years. On January 29, the unsolvable case made its way to you. Why you accepted it, it is unclear. Every officer, and indeed most civilians in Jamrock, know it's unsolvable. You were so drunk, you didn't remember what it was when you signed on. That, or you were high. Leslie will always take his pants off when he's drunk. Burke will always trash everything. It's just what they do. It is their nature. You cannot change the nature of a man, and you can't lock them away because public indecency and small-scale property damage are not punishable by incarceration. The only way for Leslie to stop flashing his genitals to bypassers and for Burke to stop dismantling signage and rear-view mirrors would be for them to stop drinking alcohol, which, in their 40s or 50s, it's hard to tell because of their distorted features, is a medical improbability on par with you ceasing to produce the expression. You would think that, but you're wrong. Where's the fun in exposing your genitals or breaking stuff in your own home? No, Leslie and Burke are on the corner of Main Street and Perdition, because that's where the action is. Can you keep yourself off the streets? Threatening fines, dragging them to the station, locking them up in the hellholes they live in, locking them up in the station, hypnotherapy, even trying to get the local gang of Zemyaki to take them out. The Zemyaki gave them ethanol, so Burke and Leslie would expose and rampage even harder. You tried it all, and still the complaints wouldn't stop, as they hadn't stopped for 10 years. It's plain to see from the files that you, Satellite Officer JV, and Special Consultant TH had more important cases to attend to. You uncover cross-reference to several ongoing investigations, each brought to a standstill every time you drive down Main Street. Because there they are, on the corner of Perdition. And what is Leslie doing? Good, you're learning. If the files are to be trusted, that's all there is to it. That and Burke breaking things, and the fact that they're both drunk. But then again, so are you. The case becomes considerably less comic one day when Burke takes a swing at your ledger. He must have it confused with the property he likes to damage. But the joke's on him. The officer is also drunk. Way more drunk than Burke there. And let's be fair, you also have party eyes. You slam the hardened plastic board in his face, then proceed to beat him unconscious with it. In the process, the ledger sustains damage. The compartment within, reserved for permeable documents, is jammed shut. You stop your assault on the now unconscious Burke to open it, but are unable to do so. The officer began to cry, reports Leslie, who, at this point, is tending to Burke. He came at us, and at us. I think he was trying to kill Burko. While trying to kill Burko, you slowly come around. The permeable's compartment is open. You've smashed it open on poor Burko's kneecaps. The good news is, Burke can't walk anymore. Can't get out of his apartment, an invalid. With Burke to tend to, Leslie cuts back on the indecent exposure. Maybe he flashes his genitals to Burke. Who knows? But both drunks are off the street. The complaints stop. The unsolvable case is solved. Which is also why the officer responsible narrowly escapes a disciplinary hearing. The end. Do you want to read another one? Not much has changed in the meanwhile. A bunch of sodden papers still sags from the clipboard. It's made of dark blue plastic, hard enough to beat someone to submission with. The edges are rounded, however. The U4 size board feels thick and heavy in your hand. Light shimmers on its wet surface. On the back you see the embossed letters, RCM. Something rattles inside, ever so lightly. Is there a hidden compartment? Permeables. It's not hidden per se. The compartment is made for permeable materials that would get damaged if something happened to it. The plastic shimmers like lapis lazuli, but it is not see-through. You cannot see to its center. With your hands, U4-sized pages hang from the clip screwed to the top of the board. The two sides of the board appear slightly misaligned, like a drawer that's come off its slides. If you bend the plastic on your knee slowly, the slides snap back into place. It should be possible to just, you know. What are you waiting for? Just. Without resistance or sound, the two panels move against each other. The compartment is now open. 2 ticket stubs and a handmade postcard. Two octopuses are smiling, reaching their tentacles toward each other in the colored pencil drawings. The tickets permit access to the zoo in Revachol East. The aquarium costs extra. These let you go there too. The words just crossed your mind somehow. You see 2 ticket stubs and a handmade card. Thin wax paper has been glued to a piece of cardboard. Sounds like leaves rustling when you pick it up. You see violet flowers, floral patterns, patches of glue. It smells of chewing gum, apricot flavored. Exactly like the gum wrapper you found, the same brand of chewing gum. Your fingers are sweaty. There is a sweat mark where they held the wax paper. The card lies next to the ticket stubs. Thin wax paper has been glued to a piece of cardboard. Sounds like leaves rustling when you pick it up. You see violet flowers, floral patterns, patches of glue. Familiar handwriting lines the inside of the card, looped, round letters in a woman's hand. A young woman in her 20s. There is care, effort, and a smile, you think. Although that is not something you can read from someone's handwriting. Harry, it begins. You're already reading. I wanted to write you a letter so you can read it when you wake up. Maybe it will make you happy. Throw it away, please. A merciful wind blows in from the Bay of Revachol, dusting the ground at your feet and raising newspapers far away. You feel the card slipping into it.
Let's go.
Your hands shake, holding onto it. Every morning when I step out and you're asleep behind me, it says, I find a little piece of sadness in me. I carry it in my chest, down Voyager Road. Every step I take, it grows. By the time I reach the fuel station, it has filled me entirely. I step onto the light rail and look back. Sparks fall from the bow collector. I know it will be like this until late afternoon, when I get off the 42 and walk back to you. You. Every step I take will get lighter. It almost makes me run. Sometimes I do. I can't believe I met you. I can't believe the happiness I feel with you. You have a vast, vast soul, and I will always, always, always come back to it. Kisses, kisses, kisses. You feel the air sucked out of your lungs and the blood sucked out of your head. Everything around you gets dark. Small white dots appear. You feel the ledger slip from your hand. No, hold on. To what? There's nothing.
Detective, is everything all right?
There is nothing. Again. Nothing sad, brother. No treachery, just blackout. Well, almost nothing. There is the ground below you, that's still there. And the small light that's on, fluttering, somewhere in the basal ganglia. That's me. Blue eyes, that's me. Who was what?
He speaks of the sickening longing, the unwell emotion. Even in the darkness, he's grasping for it. Still trying to hold on to the great sorrows slipping in the water. Slimy.
The call when you're dead, brother.
Here in the paleo-mammalian cortex, we call it the shadow. Because it's always there.
Bloated corpse of the past resurfacing. Don't prod at it. It will start moving again. There is no Voyager Road. There are no roads, no houses, no lights in the windows. It's all on pause. Your name is fuck all.
It certainly ain't Harry. Your name is passed out on the ground, dragged around by one of the other evil apes. They're taking you somewhere.
You think they would let you? Until you disintegrate into biomolecules? No. Someone is breathing on your face now, inspecting your pupils, stupid idiot.
Oh, but you are. They're pouring something on you. Something in you. It's
delicious. Glowing lights on a dashboard emerge out of nothingness. In the upholstered cabin of Lieutenant Kitsuragi's motor carriage, seated in the driver's basket, the air is thick with leatherworks and heavy fuel oil. Cold water runs down your chin.
Drink. Water. There is no use arguing with me. You will die if you don't. Drink!
There really is no use arguing with him. This is him exerting the reserves of authority he usually withholds. You can't even try to resist. All you can do is... The water is cold, silvery, the stuff of life itself, as it pours down your parched throat. The pounding in your head recedes. The darkness parts.
Drink. You haven't drunk water in 2 days. Did you know the human body is not made to survive on alcohol alone? You need a secondary form of hydration.
With greedy gulps, you down half a liter of cold water. Some of it spills on the driver's seat. The lieutenant pays no heed to it.
What happened? You were reading your paperwork. Then you passed out. I carried you to my kinema to take you to a hospital. Then you came to. 10 minutes, maybe. That does sometimes happen. You dropped these. Are you okay to proceed? Good.
The Ledger of Failure and Hatred is a special item that can be used both as an interactable and a tool equipped in your held slot for skill bonuses. Find it under the Tools tab in your inventory.